But first, while she's getting in there for a vote, let's break it down with tonight's party panel. We've got Princeton University political scientist, Dr. Lauren Wright. So, Lauren, I will start with you. The tale that is being told and lived in New York is very similar to big cities across the country. Crime is up and cops are leaving. Is there a correlation?
I mean, look, I understand what Republicans are doing here when the focus is on high crime rates in Democrat-led cities. They tend to do well. Voters want a law and order message, and that's been true in every single election cycle. It's also true crime's up all around the country, but for Democratic leaders, it's probably not the best message, as relevant as those statistics are, to say, yeah, but that's happening everywhere. You need a more proactive message for your own cities. I don't think Republicans will succeed at this, pivot of trying to defend Trump with this indictment while pointing to New York crime. Maybe just point to crime all around the country and talk more about their solutions to solve it, and adding cops and doing other things that the majority of voters support.
You bring up some really good points, and Lauren, I want to talk to you about that. What other institutions could be supportive, not necessarily government institutions, but Hannah brings up the great point that, maybe some kids should be working. Maybe school isn't the place for people who just skip out, whose parents don't care if they don't show up for class for weeks and weeks at a time. So, maybe we should encourage teenagers to be out there working full time and to be exhausted and earning money legitimately, so they're not out, screwing around and hurting each other.
I mean, look, I think that's a widely appealing message. I've heard that from both sides of the aisle today about parental involvement, about more police. And so crime really is one of these issues. And of course, I'm fascinated with the politics of it because that's what I study. And I think that these sorts of scenes that unfolded in Chicago and on most days in New York really hurt Democrats. So they really need the answers. But this is an issue that most Americans care about. It's at the very top of their list. They do think parents have a role. And so it is an issue where neither party has a choice to look away. They need solutions, and most people agree that those solutions start at home, or there's a role for parents when it comes to anything that teenagers do. That just seems to be common sense.
All right. Well, party panel, we're going to see you a little bit. The party panel is back. Lauren Wright, Richard Fowler, and Hannah Cox. So, Lauren, obviously, this is going to be a little bit different tone. The interview for Elon, he did a sit down with the BBC, and man, that interviewer really looked like a dum-dum. What would you like to hear from this exchange tonight?
I don't know what to expect. I'm very excited to watch it. I'm teaching political communication this year to grad students, and we were just talking about AI last week. However, I have zero level surprise that the DMs are accessible, if that's true. I think I'm just one of the very jaded millions of Americans who sort of assume that their private communications are not private most of the time, and people have thought that for decades. Upwards of 90% of Americans, when we ask them, say the privacy and security of their communications is a priority. Just 6% trust the government and private companies to protect that information. And so, yes, should be disturbing, Kennedy, but to me, not surprising at all.
Isn't it maybe time for some term or age limits, Lauren? And is there sexism afoot with this sort of blanket call for her resignation?
I mean, no, I think that's why you see it from both parties, is if someone is incapacitated or close to it, Democrats and Republicans are both going to start calling for that person to step down. The problem is the rules in the Senate are really tough with regard to even if someone resigns from a committee. To replace that person is a long haul. Democrats, I will say, have plenty of judges they could vote on right now. They've either been in recess or spending a week on the AUMF. They've been doing a lot of other stuff. And so Dianne Feinstein holding up the Democrats' ability to appoint judges is somewhat of a stretch. Biden's been more successful in that regard, even than Trump, Bush, and Obama. He's appointed a ton of federal judges.
Yeah, no, they figured out a way like that.
So she's
that
not
will
the
be,
only thing standing in the way.
Yeah, that will be the big legacy for both of those administrations, is their ability to just rubber stamp judges.
Yes.
So, Richard.
Yeah, they're focused on it.
They absolutely are. So
I think we do need age limits, right? They're too old. Let them retire. Let younger blood come in.
I mean,
we're
Mitch
becoming
McConnell
like
got
the not
hammered.
good parts.
He was getting hammered too.
He was.
Yeah.
Woo, Cocaine Mitch, always getting hammered. I love it.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell did get some fair share of bad reporting.
And Hannah, John Fetterman needs to try ayahuasca or MDMA with guided therapy, and that would be wonderfully helpful for him. Thank you all very much for being here. Great discussion.
Thanks, Kennedy.